With chaos on the top of the ticket, the president is going to rely on the Senate having their back, whether it be Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. Let's see who's going to win what seat in all the battleground states, according to the polls. Let's go. So first and foremost, we have a good majority of the states already categorized as either Democrat or Republican. A third of the seats out of 100 are up for grabs, as is per usual per midterm election every 2 years. We do have some polarized states that will go blue or red, and these are states that prior hand would have been up to contest, but now are really not so certain to be. And so, for example, if you see here, Donald Trump was leading Joe Biden by over 3% at a time when even 1v1, it was less favorable to Trump than it was if you were to put Kennedy on the ballot. The dynamic is swapped recently. And so, again, Trump was up by over 3 a few weeks ago. Now he's about tied in the popular vote. And according to the aggregates right now, he's actually down by 0.5. Now, he's still likely to win in the Electoral College. That being said, though, the odds of him winning have gone down drastically. So that totally changes the calculus. States that would have been contested at a time when Trump was, let's say, close to winning in New Jersey as of a few months ago, that's gone now. When it comes down to the Senate in Virginia, Hung Kao, a competent veteran Republican operative and candidate in this general election, will not really stand a chance. Again, because when you need somebody to win down ballot, you need them to have a disagreeing opinion, generally in the state that you're the underdog in when it comes down to the presidential politic. So what that would mean is that, for example, in some Fox polls 6 weeks ago, Trump was actually tied with Biden. So you could see a Republican that's palatable like Youngkin or whoever else actually win narrowly in the state of Virginia. That's not so much the case. Tim Kaine is not a socialist, and he's easily going to win through Beltway connections, elite fundraising prowess, and you would totally see that being the case. Now, a similar result would happen in West Virginia, though. West Virginia would be Republican easily, not because the Democrat is so awful that's running. In fact, most people don't even know who the Democrat is. It's more so the fact that people that are voting for Trump, let's say 65 to 38 or something, are likely not going to switch their vote to a Democrat, no matter how appealing they may be. Joe Manchin, a person who's won the state under really tough circumstances, even himself bowed out, despite obviously virtually every politician wanting to hold on to power, no matter how difficult it may be. And so this state is not into question due to polarization, okay? Now, a new feature of the channel, like I said, is this yellow marker. This same rule applies to Minnesota. With Tim Walz being selected by Kamala Harris, it only just doubles down on the initiative to make this state a safe blue one. Biden won this state allegedly by about 7.38 percentage points in 2020. So for Kamala to lose a ton of support is not likely, especially when the governor, who is positively viewed as of right now in the state, endorses Amy Klobuchar, who herself is a juggernaut in the state politic for whatever reason. It just makes it more and more obvious that whatever no-name Republican they have is not going to do great. And so for that reason alone, I think that Minnesota will be a safe blue seat. That being said, we do have positives for Republicans. In Florida, again, Trump is likely to win the state by maybe half as much as DeSantis did, so maybe like 8 percentage points. A pretty solid result given the last decades of obviously purple politics in Florida. But ever since 2022, it's been very much cemented in the GOP wing, and therefore it's going to stay red for Rick Scott, who is a competent Republican, not the most appealing, but he gets the job done. That being said, though, we do have Texas with Allred versus Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz in an off-year election might actually be under threat because he, for whatever reason, is less likable than Donald Trump. This has been the case since 2015, and it's held true for the better part of 10 years. Beto O'Rourke actually got somewhat close in 2018. He got within a few points in red Texas. Now, all of a sudden, Texas is actually 7.6% in polling towards Cruz over Allred. Again, not to say Colin Allred is a bad guy, but it's to say that because Trump is on the ballot, odds are 90-something% of people that vote for Trump will vote for Cruz, and you can't tell me otherwise. We have a tied Senate. Now it depends on who wins the presidency as to maybe the vice president breaking the tie, whether that be Walz or whether it be Vance. That being said, we're moving on to the other states. So these are going to be more difficult, but the easiest one we can forecast right now is Montana, for a multitude of different reasons. If you look into the Montana polling, you'll notice right off the bat that Tim Sheehy is leading by 3.5, and I think this is a far understatement. A lot of this polling is using data from 6 weeks ago, and while obviously the Republicans at the national level are weaker than they were 6 weeks ago when Biden was at the helm and pooping himself in the debate stage, truth is that obviously the down ballot effects are not completely correlative. And so, for example, Tim Sheehy, who is a decent guy, telegenic, has no real issues just being a human being, he's likely to win. If you had a Roy Moore situation where the scandal were so pernicious, you could see a moderate Democrat actually flip the state that's deep red. In this case, it's not really the situation at hand. In fact, John Tester, while he's not going to the DNC, which might seem like, wow, he's really trying to go out on a limb to be a maverick like the blue John McCain. Truth is that it does not win elections, especially when Trump is likely to win the state of Montana by like about 20. So it's likely that Tim Sheehy will win by way more than 3.5. I think he's poised to win by like maybe 7. But anyway, it doesn't matter, okay? It's about who gets the most votes, whether that be by 1 or a million. So that margin doesn't matter too much. But we do have some other states that are still pretty hard to tell. The next one I want to talk about after the Republicans already gained the Senate, by the way, 51 seats, is going to be Ohio. Ohio's one that I tend to disagree with, obviously, okay? Because if you look at the aggregation, you'll see that Brown is leading Moreno by 5 percentage points, which is odd because, again, Trump won the state by about 10 percentage points in 2 elections in a row. That being said, we also had J.D. Vance win by about 6 percentage points despite being massively outspent like 6-1 by Tim Ryan, which is to say, obviously, the Republicans on the ballot in November are going to be pretty strong in Ohio, that being Trump and JD. That being said, though, obviously, Brown is a juggernaut in his own right, some would say, when it comes to being a progressive Democrat, somebody who has a lot of the same economic policy as Bernie Sanders, while not being as woke as maybe he is, at least in appearance. It seems like, obviously, Sherrod Brown still faces an uphill battle that I can forecast. Now, again, the polling shows him winning, but I very, very much disagree with this for a couple of different reasons. First and foremost, they're using polling that goes back to March. That literally is asinine, for one. But it also shows a lack of money being put into the state relative to the other states like Wisconsin, Arizona, etc., which shows a lack of interest, which makes me think intuitively that the Republicans are not prioritizing the state of Ohio, which is interesting. Probably means that they're likely to win in their own estimation. That being said, again, polls say that Brown is leading by 5, but he only has 46.8% of the popular vote. If you're leading by 5 in a final election result for Senate, you ought to be winning like 54% of the vote, not 47. And so there's a lot of ground to make up. There's plenty of undecideds right now, and most of those will go home to Trump. If Trump is likely to win Ohio by anywhere from like 10 to 12 percentage points, odds are that you would need over a quarter of Trump voters to somehow go from, let's say, Trump Moreno to Trump Brown, even though Trump has specifically said to vote down ballot Republican in virtually every case historically. And so for that reason, I doubt Brown would win. But for the sake of the video, the polls are right now having it as blue. I very much disagree with this, but we'll see how this bears out when the election gets closer. That being said, though, Pennsylvania is another state that is not super good for Republicans. In fact, Casey is beating McCormick, according to these polls, more so than he's even Brown is beating Moreno, which is odd. But even more so incredible is that the Pennsylvania Senate is an election to where Trump is actually poised to win the general election in the state of Pennsylvania by a decent amount. The last time I checked it, and you can see that as of really right now on the 9th of August, Trump is winning by 2. 1.8. And so you would have to have the Republican do worse than Trump, which, you know, when you have a cushion of 2 points could totally happen. But for there to be an 8-point discrepancy in the polling between Trump winning by 2 and the Democrat Casey winning by 6.3 seems to be like everything's not completely up to snuff, that there seems to be a lack in accuracy in the polls for the Senate. That being said, though, it seems likely that if Trump wins Pennsylvania by anywhere from like 2 to 4 percentage points, especially since Shapiro's not on the ballot with Kamala, it seems likely that Bob Casey, who's really strong electorally, who's even more popular in Pennsylvania than Obama used to be against Romney, it'd be indicative of the fact that Casey's likely to be winning the state by anywhere from, let's say, 1 to 3 percentage points. And so closer than usual. It's a general election year, so it makes sense, but he's still likely to win re-election here for like a 3rd or 4th term. Anyhow, so the guy's been there since 2006. We do have 4 more states here, and these are going to be Michigan, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Arizona with Nevada next to it. Now, to be clear, Slotkin, again, leading by 6 points in the aggregate is not really accurate to the polls. Again, you look at Michigan right now, Kamala versus Trump. Kamala is winning by 2, which is ridiculous. You see a poll that has her up by 11 in Michigan. God bless your soul if you actually believe that's going to happen. Anyhow, again, so Michigan is a toss-up right now. I'll admit it. But Slotkin winning by 6 makes no sense, obviously. Now, you look at the percentage points in the aggregate, which is why you need some nerd like me to explain it to some of y'all. But listen, again, Slotkin, with less than 50% of the support of the vote right now, is supposed to be winning by 6. That logically doesn't proceed. If you're winning by 6, it ought to be like let's say 55% to 49% final result. with some third party. But the point is that 46.5% is not enough to win the election. Now, given the polling, obviously, with the undecideds, it's still not likely that Mike Rogers would win in that case, but things are subject to change. And so for now, we're going to leave this blue with the understanding that obviously most people that vote for Trump will vote for Mike Rogers. It's not like Mike Rogers is like super far right or anything, so I don't see why he'd lose much support, if any, compared to Trump. And Alyssa Slotkin obviously has the niche appeal and also repellent in that she's a Zionist Jewish person who obviously has a clientele of Democrats that she needs to win this election that are of the Arab persuasion, that are probably sympathetic to Gaza, that will likely sit out the election if they think that somebody like Slotkin is not doing what they need to do in regards to whatever they want her to do. And so it's a little crazy, but that might actually nip her a little bit in the ankle. That being said, though, in Wisconsin, this is a heartbreaker. You look at the results here and you'll notice that Eric Hovde, who by all means is a solid candidate from what I can tell, seems to be lapping behind Tammy Baldwin. A couple of reasons may be as following. Again, 6-point differential in this election prospect. Baldwin, unlike the other candidates that are leading by 5, is actually at a 50% majority of the vote. So this seems a little more concrete towards her winning re-election. Now, there's a couple of things at hand here, okay? Hovde, again, solid guy, but until we get to the debates, assuming they happen, we won't really tell if he's going to get a big momentum shift. And beyond this, the fundraising has been utterly putrid when it comes to certain niches in Wisconsin you would like to reach. And so with that being said, it's indicative that maybe Trump will win the state of Wisconsin, but he would need to be carrying Hovde through coattails because a lot of people in Wisconsin do not know who Hovde is and what really makes him better than Tammy Baldwin. And so in theory, I think that Baldwin is actually poised to win as of right now. Again, if there's debate performances that are incredible, this is subject to change. If fundraising all of a sudden takes a shift, maybe Wisconsin can be better. For example, if Republicans say, okay, we're winning Montana, let's save money, put in Wisconsin. Ohio, we're all of a sudden winning by a ton. Okay, Ted Cruz, cough it up. Rick Scott, cough it up. You're going to win anyway. Put it in Wisconsin. But for now, it seems Democrat. So 51 to 47 seats. Let's see where the last two go. Nevada is interesting. Nevada, Trump is winning right now over Kamala, and I think that Nevada is actually becoming more Republican over time, gradually. That being said, Trump is leading by 3.7 percentage points in this upcoming election, okay, in Nevada. And obviously there's outlier polls, like obviously Trump is not going to win Nevada by 10. I would hope so, but that's my bias showing. But Trump is likely to win Nevada by a couple points at least. That being said, when it comes down to Sam Brown and Jackie Rosen, it seems like Rosen is up by 4. Again, caveat, she's not over 50 percentage points yet, and so it's still an open race. The question is, if Trump wins Nevada by, let's say, 4, what makes you think that Sam Brown would lose? Sam Brown is likely, obviously, to get virtually all the votes that Trump gets. So unless you're just a very shallow person and takes a look at Sam Brown and says, I'm not voting for him, then you're probably going to actually come out for the Republican ticket full sale. And so for that reason, I think Sam Brown will win by like 2. But because obviously the polls are saying different, we're going to keep the spirit of the video alive. Okay, we're using the latest polls basically, however much I disagree with them. But we do have one last state. Okay, so my home state, it's pretty hot outside, Arizona. We know it well. That being said, it looks pretty troubling, okay? It's definitely a purple state at this point, but Trump is likely to win it. In fact, if we were to correspond with the new results out of Arizona, you'll notice that Trump is leading it by 1.5. That margin is more narrow than you would have expected it. In fact, right after the debate performance, Trump was winning Arizona by 5 to 6 percentage points. That lead has collapsed to 1.5. So if that's the case, then God bless Kamala for not picking Mark Kelly, because he's pretty popular here. That being said, of course, we do have somebody on like Tim Walz who's not really palatable to the people in Arizona you'd like to win. Okay, these Goldwater Republicans, but in more particular sense, the McCainites. Okay, the people that voted Kirsten Sinema over McSally. That being said, we do have some complicating results. As you can see here, even though Trump is winning by 1.5, Gallego is winning by 3.4. Awful results for Kari Lake. She recently won her primary, which means she can spend a little more time on attacking Ruben Gallego. That being said, the primary wasn't that contentious to begin with, which would make you think that maybe it's not that much of a boost for Kari to have won the nomination to begin with. But that being said, I do hope the funding will get closer as the election gets nearer, as obviously Lake is trying to paint Gallego as a far leftist akin to Bernie Sanders. That being said, will that actually work? It's going to be a hard sell. A lot of people are low information voters, and so they might not know any better, and they'll vote Democrat regardless because that's their inclination. You need these people to be either sitting it out or voting for Kerry for her to win. Again, Trump is performing 5 points better as of right now than Kerry in the polls, which literally doesn't make sense to me, obviously, as they're pretty much the same person politically. That being said, I do think that Kerry will underperform Trump by maybe 2 percentage points. And so as of right now, since Trump is winning by less than 2, according to the latest polls, which I disagree with, it seems like Kerry will lose the state of Arizona by that math. Kind of similar to Martha McSally, okay? Martha McSally was someone who got all of the Trump support in 2020, I believe, but lost a little bit somewhere along the way. I think Kerry is suffering through the same issue. Now, there's a bright side in that I think Kerry is a way better speaker than Martha, easily. And beyond this, obviously, Kerry is closer to the nominee Trump than was McSally. And so it seems like a more comfy fit in that circumstance for her to use the coattails of Donald Trump. But it's also very telling if you are somebody who's a Trumpian candidate but cannot get 100% of the reciprocal support of Donald Trump himself. What that likely means is that there's a niche of Arizona voters that are going to cast their ballot for Trump against Kamala, but not for Donald, but also don't hate Gallego like they do Kamala, and therefore will vote for Gallego and Trump, if that makes sense. That's a niche that needs to be explored. Ticket splitting in Arizona is more common than it is in several other swing states, and so this could totally happen. And so that's too bad, because I have obviously met Kerry, and I think she's a way better candidate than Gallego. Anybody with the brain would say that. And so with that being said, as of right now, we have the Republicans winning 51 seats in the Senate compared to the Democrats 49. You may say, well, Lalo, this is actually a pretty negative result. You're so bullish. Again, we're using the latest polls here and a little bit of discernment, okay? My personal map would have us winning Ohio. We would be winning Arizona. Well, actually, my confidence is shaken due to this top of the ticket at the change of the ticket at the top of it when it came to Kamala replacing Joe. We were on a sugar high, and now it's their turn to have the sugar high. And people say it's a brat summer, and it's a very hellish one, really, because when you think about it, an election where Trump was winning 3.5 points more so than he is nowadays, where he's lapping Kamala or behind her by 0.5, that's not great. That being said, even if Trump were to lose the election, we're still likely to have a Republican Senate regardless. Because again, West Virginia without Manchin is an easy cakewalk, as is Montana for that matter, Florida, Texas, etc. 2018, it was a different calculus, but I think all nerds understand this. And so anyways, I'll leave you with that. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, and comment down below any suggestions you have for me to mix and spice things up, as I love this content to death, obviously, but we want to add little kinks and little twists to it, just like I did with this polarized little yellow token. And so I'll see y'all in the next one. Adios.